Welcome. I was talking with a friend yesterday, and she had been dealing with being ill for several months. And she was talking about what she had most learned. And what I heard her say was that I was really being with it. And she said it a couple of times, really emphasizing the really being with. And it occurred to me that what I've been coming to over the last number of years is that we move from fear to love through presence. And that presence is really the same as love. It's the operational definition of love. And presence is really turning toward, being with. You can turn toward your insides and you can turn toward your outsides. And that's really, in essence, what we're doing with loops and scoops, is using our attention to really be with. And really being with is the equivalent of love. So if you think about what is it when you really love, what are you doing? And the really being with is the same as when we say I love you, we're really giving our attention to something or someone. And I want us to be able to give and receive love, both for ourselves and for others and for our communities and the planet. So I'd like you to just go ahead and try on right now. I'm just about to sneeze. That awakened my nervous system. So when you are really with, just notice in your body what is calling for you to really be with right now. And how can you really be with yourself? How do you do that? And then really just noticing something outside of you, and how can you really be with that? Even though you're here and that's there, how can you really be with? Let yourself experiment with what you're doing with your body, what you're doing with your breath, what you're doing with your attention. Because our attention is the vehicle of our love. And it's a way that we can keep growing and sharing and experiencing, giving and receiving presence. So one of the things I wanted to experiment with today are some verbs that I found that I'd like to have you try on with your giving and receiving. But let's just continue with what in you is really calling for you to be with. And what images work for you to be with? My favorite is being with it the way that I would be with a close friend on a porch swing that has the most wonderful rhythm. So for me, that incorporates being close, because in our relationship work, you would call me a glommer, love to be close. So this last 6 months has been quite challenging for me. It's one of the reasons I created this, so I could have the experience of being close, even if it's uh, over the ethers. So I think it's helpful to have body sensations that let you know, ooh, something's calling, something has its hand up, something's going, ooh, ooh, ooh. So one of our cats is very clear when she wants us to be with her. She sticks her head up. And she goes, now, now. So what are the signals that you give to yourself that something's wanting attention? because we can actually listen to ourselves before there is pain. Pain is like the last, okay, you didn't listen to me, so now I'm going to up the volume here. So, and how can you give your attention, which is your vehicle for being with? How? What are the various hows where you can give your attention to you? Our ability to shift our attention is one of the exercises that's most useful right now because we're so inundated with things coming at us. And there's really no time to integrate. So instead of trying to shut everything out, which is kind of useless, I find that the circulating of my attention refreshes. It's like clearing the pipes. It both refreshes me, but it also lets things through. So that's also the purpose of being able to give attention to you and being able to give attention to what's around you. So when you look around, actually just let yourself look around. How do you experience something calling for your attention? How do you know something out there wants your attention? So one of the ways that I get that is there's just a little kind of a shimmer down the outsides of my body. So it's not a clear being able to see. There's a little shimmer or something that's not quite clear. There could be, like, when my things outside of me are really wanting my attention, they break. So, like something, I look at it and it's giving me a little signal, but I overlook it, and then the next thing I know, it's broken. So I think that our attention is being called for first with what we call the feather. First the feather, then the sledgehammer. So if you're willing to favor the feather, say that 5 times really quickly. If you're willing to favor the feather, you can start being aware that your attention is being called. And that way you own your attention. One of my goals for Loops and Scoops is that we all have the opportunity to own our attention more and more. So what I'd like to have you experiment with is shifting your attention. And I'd like you to notice that you can use your attention. You can combine your attention with different verbs to create different qualities of how you're shifting your attention. So to begin with, just simply shift your attention out. Take a breath. Shift your attention in. Take a breath. When I'm practicing, I like to slow it way down, because now in my practice, I can pretty much do it all simultaneously. I can be aware of me, I can be aware of you, I can be aware of what I might want to say next, and my cat making mewing sounds in the other room, and all of that at the same time. But that's from like 30 years of practice. And so the best way to develop your own skill is by slowing down. So notice, if you're willing to shift, take a breath, land, shift inside, take a breath, land, or land, take a breath, and then notice, like I'm just noticing Patrick wiggling, when you land, your body is going to speak to you. And so notice how your body speaks. It might speak through images, through movement, through the sounds that you hear. So what I want to add in now, I'm going to float a verb out. In fact, that's the first verb. I'd like you to float. Float your attention out and letting it land, and take a breath, and then float your attention. What's it like to float your attention back in and land? And do that another time, floating it out and floating it back in again. And then let your attention circle. So circling it out and circling it back. And when you circle it, do you circle around things or do you circle to things? And when you come to you, let yourself circle around you and then back out and around. You could circle out really wide, like you could circle your whole community and then circle back around you. You could do a couple of circles of you before you circle out. You could have the circle be like a lasso or like a hula hoop. The circle is such a wonderful symbol, too, of including. And notice if when you're circling, you feel that you're including you and including what's going on around you. And then ripple. Try on the verb ripple, rippling your attention out. And when you ripple, notice how the ripple connects you. And then the ripple can become like a backwash ripple, and the ripple comes back to you. And notice in you what would like to be rippled. Notice what it would be like to ripple your body, ripple your senses. And do that a couple of times of rippling and try different, little ripples, bigger ripples. So it's more like a lake ripple than a stream ripple. Notice how a ripple is different from a wave. And rippling back into you, I particularly am liking the rippling up and down my spine right now. Just feeling my attention rippling, because very often we use our attention to grab or to point. So trying on different verbs, I can see lots of expansion in you all just from trying that one on. And as we're going through these different verbs, you might find one that, ooh, I really like that one. And so you can write that one down so you can continue practicing it through the week. Of course, you could look at this recording again too. Oh, here's a good one. Spray. Letting your attention spray. I was just remembering one time where my girlfriend, way back when I was a kid, said something so funny. I was just drinking milk and I went spraying, and we all thought it was hilarious. So the spraying of your attention and the spraying of you. So you can spray, we spray with our disinfectants and how about if we sprayed ourselves with attention and love, and we spritz out there with our attention and love. Notice how that feels to you to do that. Yes, and do you give as much spraying to you as you do to around you? And then try on the verb bob, letting your attention bob. My father's name was Robert Bob. He was one of the Bobs. And so it was only recently I've come to think of bob as a verb rather than as a big solid thing. So try on bobbing in yourself, letting your attention bob around, sort of like a buoy in the space around you that's just bobbing and being with you. And then letting it bob out in the world. I get a sense of summertime, vacation, ease with bobbing, nothing urgent. And so this is a great antidote to urgency. Letting your attention, notice if there's any place my feet were just saying, hey, what about me? Let's have some bobbing, combining bobbing with your body part. And I'm feeling now my feet beginning to bob. My feet were sort of flat, and now getting a little bobbing going in my feet. Yeah, and so notice if there's anything in your environment that could benefit from bobbing. Beautiful. And let me throw out one more that you can take with you during the week. Actually, two more. I've got whisper and ricochet. Whispering your attention out and ricocheting. And I invite you to invent your own verbs so that you can share them with others in the chat. And when we meet next time, you can share how you've experimented. And thank you so much for being with us and sharing, bobbing and hurling and whispering. And how about everybody unmuting yourself so I can hear your voices for a moment before I end. And then Michelle's going to stay on to chat with any of you who would like to. Yeah, so how about just sharing your favorite verb?
Bob. I love Bob.
Yeah.
Sparkle.
I like bobbing.
Scintillate.
Right. I like
Floating.
Rippling was wonderful.
Oh, shimmering. I like that one. Yeah, beautiful. All right. Mwah. Thank you. And until next time.